Good afternoon. My name is William Stevens. I go by the voice of the voiceless, and this is episode 7, Crawl, Walk, Run, Voices of the Voiceless. And today I have a special guest, and the title of this podcast is An American Warrior. And I have today with me Sergeant First Class retired Hector Ramos. He is a recipient of the Purple Heart. So all due respect, anyone that has any kind of awards or accolades or certifications, I am going to read what they are, real brief. But first, I would like to tell you my mission. In the beginning, you start out as a follower, and then you're a leader. Some of us will always stay followers because we do not want the responsibility. Some of us are groomed into being successful leaders or mentors. I believe there are platforms to voice your opinion and to promote your message, your trauma, or someone else's trauma that you're trying to represent or speak about, a product to a solution or to a problem. We are like buildings in a large city where we can build a reliance to climate and weather. Like trauma and mental health, we build a resistance in our own human infrastructure. There are too many people on the couch who are mentally or physically cannot have their voice be heard or cannot get up and move around. Some of them just want to stay on the couch and stay in the dark. It is our mission to reach out to the lonely ones, the forgotten, the individuals who cannot get off the couch. We inspire, we motivate, and we help them live another day with our message and our voices. We are the voice of the voiceless. So, here we go. Real quick here. Attention to orders. The Purple Heart is originally known as the Badge of Honor, the Badge of Merit, military merit. It was established by General George Washington on August 7, 1782. On February 22nd, 1932, the new medal was made of metal and is featured with the profile of Washington. General Douglas MacArthur was the first recipient to receive the Purple Heart. The Purple Heart can be awarded to members of the armed forces who are wounded or killed in action against the enemy or due to terrorist attack or by friendly fire. Once you are awarded the Purple Heart, you are known as a recipient of that award. The Bronze Star Service Medal signifies a military award to anyone who distinguishes themselves in the armed forces of the United States. After December 6, 1941, it is recognized the acts of heroism, the acts of merit, and meritorious service in a combat zone. A service member may be cited for heroism in combat and be awarded more than one Bronze Star. Only one V device, which represents valor, may be worn on each service ribbon or medal. The Bronze Star Medal was created in 1944 by President Roosevelt. It is the fourth highest military decoration of valor. So, let's get into this. Figure out what's going on here, people. Oh, wow. All right. So, I would like to introduce to you today Hector Ramos. He is originally born and raised from Miami, Florida. He is currently pursuing a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. He is currently a manager of a major construction business company in Miami, Florida since 2020. He is a recipient of the Purple Heart and has been awarded 3 Bronze Stars for combat operations. He is a retired Field Artillery Senior Sergeant and is a recipient of the Ancient Order of St. Barbara for demonstrating integrity, morale, character, and personal courage to the United States Field Artillery. He has been honored in several sporting events for his honorable service to this nation. He is married. He has 2 children, a boy and a girl. He has an amazing wife who supports him in everything that he has been through, thick and thin. Him and his wife are major social media influencers, motivators, and speak in service public events when he is asked to. His dream was always to go to combat. As a platoon sergeant, he did that and above and beyond. He accomplished that mission and other critical tasks. It is with distinct honor that I introduce to you a retired warrior, a veteran, an advisor, influencer, husband, father, and a friend. He works very hard every day to provide for his family and to make sure that his children are well taken care of and have a plan for the future. He is a diehard Miami sports fan, and it is an honor to introduce to you Sergeant First Class Hector Ramos. How you doing?
Hey, Bill. Hey, thank you for that introduction. I can truly, an honor to have for an honor for you to have me on your podcast. And it's truly an honor to call you an old friend. We've been together, for a very long time during my military service. You're a mentor and a friend, advisor. Even when you did retire and I continued doing my military service, I can definitely, you know, uh, say that you have been there through thick and thin. And, again, thank you for that great introduction. And it is, I can truly call you an old friend and a great friend.
Well,
um,
thank you very much.
yeah.
So, hey, we're going to get right into it. I want to know what you think of when I ask you, what do you know when I ask you the definition of crawl, walk, run?
Yeah, Bill, that's really good that you started off with that. It's funny, I heard this phrase throughout my military career, and I believed I would never hear it again. Uh, and that's not the case. Crawl, walk, run is a breakdown for strategic goals and objectives into manageable steps. Right? You know, um, Military, non-military, Fortune 1000 companies, they use this approach, you know, every day. It allows you to start small, learn, adapt as you progress, and eventually, you can achieve those larger strategic goals. The crawl, walk, run is also an approach and a metaphor for experimental problem solving. At the end of the day, it's about starting small, not rushing, learning, and then moving a little quicker, and then scaling wisely. I wrote these things down because that's exactly what I believe. The crawl, walk, run means to me. It's about embracing the journey of progression, pretty much. Where each step is calculated, into experiments that brings us closer to our goals. Like I mentioned before, many Fortune, 1000 companies use this method to be successful in business today. And you know, the military has used it for many years. And I believe that that's, it was a way of us being successful. Um, so that's what crawl walk runs means to me, Bill.
So I've always told people I believe that everybody has trauma. So in your own words, Hector, what is trauma? And then I'm just going to go into the next question as well. If you do suffer from trauma, and you ain't got to disclose it all, what do you use as coping mechanisms to forget those traumas and demons that are hidden inside that when people look at you, they don't see?
Yeah, again, really good question. You know, trauma, I looked it up, and it can be defined as a lasting emotional, psychological, and distressing response to an event that has occurred significantly negatively, you know, in your life. And have we, us in the military, have we gone through that? Absolutely. Losing a loved one as a peer, or as your battle buddy right next to you, seeing that person pass away in your arms, or seeing them get shot, and going through that, that's very traumatic. It's very traumatic, and it's emotion that will last forever. And it could affect you if you don't have a strong mind, and maybe get help for it. um such experiences often leave a profound, unforgettable imprint in your life. you know for instance, the sudden loss of a loved one, like I mentioned before, it could be your battle buddy in war, or in my case, I lost my mom early in my life. um and losing somebody like that has a parent that has nurtured and cared for you, that could be very or deeply traumatic. Personally, like I said, I've had that experience. Like I said, I lost my mother, unfortunately, very young. She was admitted to the hospital for a routine procedure, and she never came out. I'll never forget that moment I received that devastating news of her passing. It was a complete shock. It was overwhelming. um it was mind blowing, because I I didn't know how I was gonna move forward. I didn't. um this event remains significant, trauma in my life. It was a difficult experience. Uh Sometimes I think about it. It's only been a few years. I want to say about 6 years. you know um she was my greatest cheerleader. Sometimes I get choked up just thinking about it. But you got to live your life. You got to keep moving. um Different ways of coping with it. I found stays of ways of staying busy, whether it's through my work with the company I'm with, exercising, household tasks, going outside, cleaning the pool, cutting the grass, whatever, whatever you can do, excuse me, to deal with those traumas. It's recommended. Anyway, talking to somebody, which I have done, at the end of my military career, after my military career. Um, any way possible for you to cope with it, definitely recommend. My family and I love to travel. Just spending time together as a family, uh, building that relationship with each other, just building those memories, new memories, helps me keep my mind occupied and provides a lot of distraction, and it distresses, me from those thoughts. Engaging in productive activities allows me to manage my emotions, navigates me through all these difficult challenges, of traumatic experiences. At the end of the day, you have to do what's best for you. Whatever it heals, however you heal, however you want to heal, just the most important thing is moving forward, right? Keep on going, living your life, enjoying it to the fullest, and being around the ones that you love. At the end of the day, time heals all pain, and or it could disguise it, for long periods of time. But my major uh push here on your podcast and for personnel that need that help is continue to move forward, find your coping mechanism, don't give up, and enjoy life, and do do what's best, do what's best, read a book, anything to continue to move forward. Don't look back. That's I remember my grandfather said that. Hey, listen, move forward, keep going, never look back, because there's nothing back there. Everything is in front of you. So
So, how was your military transition? Was it an easy process, or did you struggle?
oh man. My transition was was a little different, Bill. It started to be a smooth transition, and then all of a sudden the pandemic started. Right, the pandemic hit. You did mention I got out in 2020. So 2020 was it was difficult for all of us, right? We just didn't know what was going on. You had to wear the mask. We had to do this. We had to distance each from each other. We couldn't touch each other. We couldn't see our elders. So uh, it was brand new to the military. So my transition from the military to civilian sector was incredibly stressful. It was a traumatic experience, like we discussed earlier, traumatic experiences. It was discussed earlier, how these things, are gonna stay with you for the rest of your life. This stayed with me for the rest of my life, and if I could help anybody, that's why I'm doing this. Other than you're my friend, but I want to, talk about it. This was one of them. This was a traumatic event. Navigating uh, this major life change during a global pandemic only made things more challenging. Many thoughts, crossed my mind. Should I extend my service, postpone the transition? Um, that was thoughts that came through my head. But you know what? I knew that if I didn't go through this now, I would never take the step. You've been through this, and many people that I've spoken to have gone through this transition, and it's very nerve-wracking. It's stressful, it's traumatic. So imagine throwing the pandemic on there. Like I said, if I didn't do it now, I might have never taken that step. So I made the decision to retire, move forward, and transition. So before the pandemic, transition courses were conducted in person, right? Allowing service members to socialize, ask questions like, "Hey, what are you doing when you get out? What? Maybe you could be intrigued, by learning what these guys are doing, But unfortunately, I didn't have that. I couldn't learn from others or what their process was going through, or what they were going through. You know, if it was the same process as me, unfortunately, I didn't have that. It wasn't an option for me. My transition was mostly online, making it more isolating. Experience. Adding to the stress, I was placed on rear detachment while my unit was deployed. They were doing excuse me, a rotation in South Korea. It- And it's funny. I had a lot of mentors and advisors and bosses, that said, if you can do one thing, Hector, don't go to Korea. So as soon as my unit, got the orders to go to Korea, I was like, "Yep, this is my time. I'm ready to drop my retirement packet, and transition out." I listened to them, and it was a good thing I did, because I heard horror stories about that deployment. But the uncertainty and the lack of direct support increased my anxiety. Oh man, what am I gonna do? God, every all my bosses are gone. The leadership is gone. How am I gonna get these signatures? So again, via email, phone calls, this and that. And I coped by, just doing PT twice a day almost. Um, you know, but that transition was difficult. What helped me through that, like I gave you an example, was reminding myself, not only doing exercise, but reminding myself that, it would be over soon. And guess what? I was going home. Finally, after 22 years in military service, I was going home. My family had already moved onto our house in Florida. I was going to be on terminal leave. It was approaching quick. I was counting down the final days in uniform. Um, the whole experience felt surreal. It was just like no other. Um, Most of the transition process, handling benefits, gathering information, finalizing my paperwork, like I mentioned, was done via emails and by phone. A far cry from the traditional way these transitions were conducted before. I even received my retirement award via email, or I'm sorry, not via email, via mail, instead of in person. Usually I do an in-person ceremony. I didn't have that luxury. When I was eventually invited to do a ceremony, the dates didn't align. They weren't in my schedule to do it. I already transitioned from out of service. I hung up the boots, and I didn't want that break period. I didn't want to get lazy. I didn't want to, I wanted to keep that same work ethics that the military taught me. I wanted to try and still conduct PT like the military, which that went down the drain. But the schedules didn't align. I transitioned out of the military. 2 weeks later, I was in my new position with my new company, and just the schedule didn't align. So I decided to forego it. In the end, I realized I didn't need a ceremony to validate my career. My family was proud of me. I was proud of me. Uh, you know, so, reflecting on my 22 years of service, I feel an immense sense of pride that I accomplished this great career for such a long time. If I, was given the chance, and we were reborn, young again, I would absolutely do it all over again. Even though there are things that I might change. Serving my country was one of my greatest accomplishments, second only to starting my family, of course. But these 22 years time, elapsed in a blink of an eye. I often recall the words of my peers, subordinates, and leadership, who reminded me, cherish every moment. It's over in a blink of an eye. And if I could do it again, I would definitely, take that recommendation and stop and see, stop and just take it in. Hey, I lived in Germany. Who has uh, the luxury of living in Germany, all paid for? I lived in Puerto Rico, due to the military. I lived in Georgia, or I bought my first house. Um, Oklahoma, Kansas, you know. I've seen, countries that people even never thought of seeing, Estonia, Latvia, Romania, Bulgaria. It was great. It was great. But I mean, that would be the only change, just cherish those moments. Just think about it. Hey, man, you're in these countries that people will never even realize, they exist. Um, so that would be my only regret, my regret. And then if I could do it again, changes, that I would definitely try and, accomplish, in my career is just take it all in, slow it down a little bit because life, it's true. It passes you in a blink of an eye. But it was great. Everything was great. Uh, I'm meeting people like yourself, meeting, friends and peers that I still call friends and still talking to them to this day, Um, you'll never experienced that esprit de corps, that camaraderie that we all felt. I try to implement that in my new career. As we're a family away from family. I see them more than I see my family at times. So I kind of implement that. I try to tell them that. I was like, hey, we got to build that bond. We got to build that relationship. And I believe I did. I believe that I brought that to the table, as their new boss and as a mentor and a leader. I always tell them, hey, that's something that we need to implement here because I took it away from the military, and it's something I miss. I know we all miss it, that friendship, that togetherness. So that's another way of I see it as coping with trauma. Meeting new friends. Talking about your experiences, talking about of what you've been through, because everybody has a lot of experiences and everybody's dealt with trauma, in different ways. Um sorry, I'm rambling on. I just
It's all
it's
right.
just surreal.
Let me ask you. I'm going to add one more question, then I want to open the floor up to you because I'm going to let this one go a little bit over 30 minutes. But the last thing I have for you, when you came home, your family, because a lot of people don't know, what was that like dealing with now seeing your wife every day, now seeing your kids every day, and you don't have nothing to do? Because I know with you and I communicating, you were like, "Hey, Smoke, help me with my resume. Uh, help me. I'm trying to find a job. Like, my wife is working, and then my wife's not working. Like, man, you've been through it. You've been through it, and I think a lot of people thinking, man, this guy's got a Purple Heart and Bronze Stars, and he's just gonna have it handed to him. It doesn't work like that. So, tell me how it was interacting with your family when you came off the battlefield for that last time.
Well, great question. Well, like I said before, the feeling was surreal. I couldn't believe I just finished this great career, serving my country, and now my next job was in front of me, right? Being a father, being a husband, being a friend, a leader, a mentor, all over again. But instead of, being it to soldiers, being it to peers, subordinates, it was being, bringing that home to my family, bringing that bringing that what I've learned in 22 years to home and implementing it at home. Like, hey, hey, we can't be late. There's a time and a place we got to be at. If you're not there 15 minutes prior, you're late, right? That was something we learned in the military. The the it's great to be home. I love my family. That was another life decision that I made. I could have, I was healthy enough to continue to pursue my military career and maybe pursue the next rank. But I was getting tired of already, my family already moved to Miami. So I was living in Georgia, at my last duty station, and just having them apart was very difficult for me. I did travel a lot to come and see them so I didn't, try to make up for that lost time and excuse me, not missing any more birthdays, missing any more anniversaries, missing, so um You know, that coming home was a great feeling. It was just amazing to come home. You know, and you know, to answer your question, excuse me, um, it hasn't been easy. It hasn't. You know, for 6 months, you know, when I knew that transition was coming around January, I got out around August, right, of 2020. So around January, the beginning of the year, you know, all the emotions, the butterflies, the anxiety, the, you know, started to hit me, you know. What am I going to do? Am I going to find anything? Is it going to be easy because, you know, I am a Bronze Star recipient, or, you know, I've done this in combat. I brought all my soldiers back. You know, I did get injured, but you know, luckily it was not a you know, a major injury where I cannot work anymore, or and I cannot provide for my family. So was it difficult? Yeah, that's when it started. It started, you know, that beginning of that year. I was like, what am I gonna do? You know, is it gonna be easy? Is it something that you know, am I not gonna find something? You know, because I'm a combat veteran. You know, a lot of people jobs, you know, or MOSs, you know, which is, you know, stands for, you know, the uh, your job in the military. You know, your MOS. You know, ours was artillery. You know, there's no artillery out here in the civilian world, you know. And what was I going to do? You know, I can't shoot big guns anymore. I loved shooting big guns, but I couldn't do it. You know, a lot of MOSs or military jobs was HR. We have those. We finance. We have those. Lawyers. We have those. You know, in the military. So you know, those guys can transition easily. They can transition out and find a paralegal job, or maybe being a lawyer. Dental. We have dental assistants. You know, they could find those jobs. You know, but for us, you know, what are we gonna do? You know, what was the expectations? You know, was I going to be a CEO of a company? Absolutely not. But you know, as a combat veteran, you know, it was difficult. And what was going to happen? I don't know. Was I going to find something that was going to provide enough for my family? You know, yes, I do have a pension. You know, a lot of people say, oh, well, you can live off your pension. Absolutely not. You know, absolutely not. You cannot live off your pension, especially in the where I live. You know, the uh, it's very expensive. You know, where I live. So you know, and yes, everybody would say, you know, well, that was your choice. Yeah, this was where I was born and raised. My family was here, and I wanted to come back and you know, enjoy my family. Um, you know, while I still could, and you know, and you know, but you know what really helped me out was keeping in contact with my military friends, keeping in contact, you know, through social media, through you know, that cohesiveness, you know, that we had in the military. Just continue that with those people, you know, because come to find out, all that stress and all that, you know, anxiety that I had of finding another position, I actually found it. I found this position through a friend of mine that was in the military, and he previously retired before me, and he said, "Hey, they're looking for people down in Miami." I was like, "Oh, really? Absolutely, yeah. They're looking for the leadership, the managerial status that you've had in the military. They're looking for it, you know. So reach out to the big boss. You know, here's his information." I reached out to him, and sure enough, you know, they were looking for some type of managerial leadership, you know, like I had in my resume, and they accepted me, and they gave me the position. But I did not think it was going to be, and I knew it wasn't going to be easy. No, it wasn't going to be something that was handed to me. You know, I mean, I even sought out, you know, your mentorship, and your friendship, and I said, hey, can you read over this? Is it good? Because I didn't have that resume writing class. I didn't get that through my transition. Luckily there's programs out there that you could definitely reach out to, and they could help you out. But I mean, there's nothing better than friends and people that you've you've been in that foxhole with, to help you out, and to read over your stuff and to give you, um feedback, and just to give you that sense of, hey, I'm here for you, don't worry about it, it's going to be okay, you'll find something, just be, just calm down, it'll happen. And it did. And it did. Luckily it did. Like I said, I kept that friendship going with this person, and they called me, but for 6 months it was very, very difficult for me. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what I was gonna pursue, and and it happened. It happened, and but I'm very grateful to be here. I'm very grateful for my career. I'm in my second career now, and I'm grateful to be with my family. Yeah, my wife has been great through this transition. She's been there, and I could definitely say she's been the backbone to my career, my family. She is my everything. She's the love of my life. And those kids, man, they keep us on our toes, but they're also great, and I love them with every piece of my soul. So. But again, thank you
Let's
for
talk.
having me, Bill. This has been great.
Yep, let's talk about what's on the screen. So one day things went dark for you. You were shot in combat. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult at times, because that was a traumatic experience in my life. Um, but the military took care of me. I did have some bumps in the road of personnel that were like, oh, that was BS or whatever. But yeah, I did go through that. Uh, that traumatic experience in my life. I did get shot in the upper arm. I didn't feel it at first during that firefight. Um, so once we you know stopped shooting, stopped firing, and that whole experience ceased. We kind of collected ourselves, and we came back to our headquarters, and that's when uh you know somebody told me, hey, Sarge, you have blood on your sleeve. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And of course the adrenaline that's going through your body at the time, um, I didn't feel it. I didn't feel it. The whatever it was went in and out. Because I have an entry and I have an exit wound. And luckily it did not touch my bone, because the doctor said that if it would have touched your bone, it would have shattered your arm and you would have lost your arm. So it was just all muscle tissue. Um, like I said, or I mentioned, it went in and out. Um, and once we recollected ourselves at, like I said, at headquarters, um, one of my peers came to me and said, "Hey, Sarge, I think you're wounded because I see blood on your sleeve." And I said, "No, absolutely not. I feel good." And when I went and I turned my arm towards towards my face, so I could look down and see if I was hit, um, you know, I did feel a little bit of pain, and I said, "Uh-oh, yeah, I think I was hit." I took off my body armor. We were in a building at the time, so I took off my body armor. I took off my top, or my blouse, as we call it sometimes, and I pulled up my t-shirt, And yep, absolutely. Once the adrenaline stopped, that's when the blood started gushing out, squirting out, and they, my peers reacted immediately. They're like, "Oh man, this is crazy! I can't believe you got hit." They grabbed gauzes. They stopped. They kind of like pushed it against the bullet wound. What they saw, which was on the outer arm, and they put the gauzes in there. They try to control the bleeding, and then they applied a tourniquet. Of course, they called it in for a medevac, medical evacuation. That's what it's called, and they came in. I mean, I felt like it took forever, but everybody's like, "Man, no, they were there in less than 10 minutes, and you were out to the cache quickly. You were out there probably less than 30 minutes." And I was like, "Wow, it felt longer than that." But it's kind of like time slows down, right, when you go through something like that. But yeah, and luckily we were in Baghdad when that happened, really close to the cache, which is the hospital, military hospital nearby. And they took me in there, and they took off the rest of my clothes. They wanted to check me from head to toe if I got hit anywhere else. I did take some shrapnel from from a bullet that hit a wall. It ricocheted on my leg. Um, so they're like, "Oh, there's another one," and I was like, "Oh man, what's gonna happen now, doc?" And he's like, "Don't worry, we're gonna take care of you. We're gonna give you some medication to relieve the pain." And that same night, I was in surgery trying to take out, the pieces of shrapnel that were left in, and they were trying to sew me up. And 2 weeks after that, I was RTD'd, which means return to duty. Um, but unfortunately, that was around the 11th month it happened of my deployment. And my commander's like, "How you feeling?" I said, "I'm not feeling very well. I thought, RTD was, I was going to be 100%. He's like, "Well, you just been through, you just got shot, so it's a traumatic event. It's not going to heal as fast as you probably thought it would be. So just take it easy. And then unfortunately, I couldn't stay in theater. Uh, my wounds got infected, and so I was out of there after 3 weeks. I did not stay with my unit. I was redeployed to Longstuhl in Germany, where they continued to take care of me. And then I was on a plane uh, back to the U.S. Right after that, as soon as I was taken care of there. Um, but yeah, that was definitely one of these traumatic experiences, that I had to deal with. But my family, I was married. I was recently married. Um, so my wife, went through that with me. My mother was still around. My family, I had my family to support me, which was very important, for me to go through that. I had a lot of um, resentment, you know, to myself, saying, "Man, your body, these are things that we only soldiers know." Uh, it was a resentment to myself, like, "Man, my body failed me." I was supposed to recover in 2 to 3 weeks. I was supposed to finish my tour of duty with my peers and my leadership and my soldiers that I took to war. This was during the invasion, um, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen that way. So my deployment was cut short. I was redeployed, and I went through those medical screenings and all that, and then I met my unit back in in Kansas once they got back. So yeah, man, it was surreal. It was a great it's a crazy experience.
Well, I just want to tell you that it has been an honor, and I definitely believe that when I release this podcast, people are going to be glued to whatever they are listening to hear this remarkable story by you, Hector. And a lot of people don't have the voice, and that's why we have this podcast, because I am the voice of the voiceless. And I want everybody to know that I believe, and the way I've written in my books, mental health is a life sentence without parole. And I'm going to let Hector give a closing statement, and then I'm going to go into why we are the voice of the voiceless, and then everybody can have a good night.
Yeah, Bill. Hey, again, thank you for having me. This is great what you're doing. I definitely recommend everyone to read your books. I read the first one. I will start the second one soon. I apologize, I haven't read that one yet. I will get to it though, because I believe they have helped me too. They have helped me. You know, think about that I'm not the only one that has gone through this. Other people have gone through this and they've coped with it in different ways, and you have remarkably put this on paper, and now it's out for everyone to see and to read and to experience it, what you experienced when we were at war. So again, thank you for having me. uh, Thank you for writing those books. Thank you for doing these podcasts and just teaching everybody out there and showing that, hey, this does exist. It's not bogus. It's not something that we're just talking out of where out of our behind. It is something that we got to cope with. We got to continue to find help any way we can. Um, whatever way you cope with it, whatever you have to do to deal with it, just keep moving forward. Don't look back. There's nothing back there. There's only the future ahead of you guys. And again, thank you for everything, Bill. You've been amazing. You've been great. Great old friend, somebody to talk to when I have nobody else to talk to. You've been there for me. And
Old,
yeah.
old, old. Okay, so it has been an honor. I am the host, William Stevens, the voice of the voiceless. You just heard from the American Warrior, and American Warrior, a hero. He is a great friend of mine. I was his platoon sergeant. He was my Joe. He was my soldier. And he grew up to be a man and a senior sergeant. Remember, there are 22 veterans a day, and even that number's higher out there, who commit suicide. Their family members, their loved ones, all go through the trauma, just like you and I. Have a great night. I am the voice of the voices, and remember.
Every day, 22 veterans and their loved ones lose their lives to the battle within, a fight invisible but deadly. For those who face the horrors of war and the isolation of coming home, this book is more than words. It's a lifeline, a tool to navigate the darkest moments. Author William A. Stevens Jr. opens Pandora's box, exposing the harsh truth of trauma, healing, and redemption. This is also a father's apology, a heartfelt letter to his daughter, a two-time world champion, for the moments lost while trapped in his own pain. Stevens is the voice for those who feel voiceless, writing to inspire, to heal, and to give hope that change is possible. Join him on this journey of survival, forgiveness, and finding peace. The Broken Mirror, available now on Amazon.